All right, we are live. Let's dive into this. First off, welcome to 2025. This is the first week of January. So, what better time to look towards the future and figure out what your goals are for the upcoming year and specifically around the game of golf, trying to figure out where we need to improve. So, I personally use two apps when tracking my stats. First off, the USGA GIN app that calculates your handicap for you. They did something cool this year, kind of like your Spotify Wrapped, but it is your GIN Rewind. So we're going to look at that a little bit. And then for me, I use 18 Birdies, which is just the app that I choose to use for all of my stats to be able to track things like putts, fairways, greens, all that. So let's dive in. First off, we're going to look at my handicap. I was able to improve from a 5.9 and ended the year at a 2.8. So first off, want to clarify what your handicap index is. Some people may not know. It's not an average score. It is basically calculating your best rounds. It's taking into account what you're capable of doing because the formula that they use is taking your best 8 rounds and of your most recent 20. So it only takes those 8 rounds. So if you score really, really well in one round, it moves your handicap up or makes it lower, I should say. If you have a blow up round and you shoot a million, then it doesn't change your handicap at all because it only takes into account your best 8 rounds. So for me, this is great because it shows me what I'm capable of. I want to get that down to 0 or scratch just so I can show that I'm capable of scoring even par or under par consistently, at least a few times over 20 rounds. So this is great progress for me. Would love to get that down to 0. Super hard to do, but that's what we're looking to do. So the next thing we want to look at is my scoring average. Now this is where I need a lot of work. I am very streaky, where I have really good rounds where I'm scoring very low, and I have some really, really bad rounds where I'm in the 90s. So my average 18-hole score over the entire year of 2024 was an 80.2. Now, I definitely have the potential and the capability, according to my handicap, to shoot pretty dang close to par, if not under. Now, the problem with that is it's very inconsistent. So consistency is what I'm looking for in 2025 to be able to bring this scoring average down. All that really matters is that I'm playing better golf, but this kind of shows that my consistency is the issue. So that's it for that app. We're going to move to the 18 Birdies app here and look at more of my round-specific stats. So looking at my score distribution, I obviously am getting the most pars. Birdies are far and few between. So those things are what I need to think about more and finding more opportunities to score. I think as we go through some of these stats a little bit more, it'll show us why. But let's start furthest back from the hole and let's talk about fairways hit. So my average for the year was 55%. Now, I'm pretty happy with that. My driver is usually one of my most consistent clubs. As of late, the end of the season, I started making some swing changes, and that consistency went down quite a bit. As you can see here on the chart, it definitely dropped a little bit towards the end of the year. Obviously, there's some rounds, there's peaks and valleys depending on the round, but there's some rounds where I was 71% fairways, which is great. Looking at the PGA Tour average I have pulled up over here is roughly 60% of fairways hit. So I'm not too far off that. I'm obviously not a PGA pro, but I think being that close is perfect. Love that number. For me, the biggest thing is for that not to drop in 2025 and to be able to maintain that, maybe move it a little bit up. But for me, maintenance mode for fairways hit is where I want to be. So if we look at my misses, I am more often missing to the right. Me naturally playing a cut, that makes sense. Just need to account for that. As long as I have predictable misses, I'm happy with that. Every now and again, I'll get some misses left. I think during my swing change at the end of the year, definitely pulled in a lot of these left misses. So Now I'm going back to a cut, as I've said in some past videos, but predictable misses with my driver will be huge. So that is fairways. If we move up to greens and regulation, this is a part of my game that needs a lot of work. I feel like I am a decent ball striker, but again, very streaky. There's some rounds where I feel super great. Like there's some rounds where you can see the highest one on here was 72%, lowest 11%. So similar to my scoring average, it just shows I have some great rounds, some low rounds. So consistency with that is huge relative to the PGA Tour. Those guys are incredible iron players, but they are hitting 11 out of 18 greens on average. That's PGA Tour average, which is 64%. So for me, averaging 43%, that's over the whole year. Would love to get that number up. Fairways, like where I'm at to be able to maintain that. This definitely needs improvement. If nothing else, just more consistency, as is with all of golf, but let's just keep going. This is very telling. I think I'm not alone in that most of my misses are short. I think a lot of amateurs and people around my similar skill level often have that short miss. So got to keep that in mind when I'm pulling a club out of my bag for an approach shot. I'm more often than not hitting it short if I'm not hitting the green. So love to see that. Know what to do specifically. That's an easy fix, is just pulling one more club or maybe going off the back number of the green rather than the front or the middle, whatever, or chasing pins, especially with mid to long irons. That's something I don't want to be doing. I want to be aiming for the middle of the green, and based off this stat, maybe I need to be just pulling that back number and use that for my club selection every time. And if I'm on the green, we'll work on putts. So with that in mind, let's go to putts per round. Averaging 1.8 putts per hole. If I'm under 2 putts per hole, that's great. I love that. Every now and again, I'll get a couple of 3 putts. I think that's pretty common. The big thing is putts per round. PGA Tour average is 29%. 29 putts per round. For me, being at 31%, don't hate that, but I think as I improve my approach game and my greens and regulation, if this number stays the same, that means my score mathematically will go down. So fairways and putts, things want to just kind of maintain, maybe improve a little bit, but I'm happy with where they're at. I think if I can keep those the same and improve my greens and regulation, that's going to be huge. That's pretty much it. Really just nerding out over the numbers today, but hopefully that'll give me some good info. And if you don't track your stats on an app, like 18 Birdies is a free app, which is great. If you want to have an official handicap index and you don't already have one, go to your local golf course. I think if you pay $30 or something for the whole year, then you can have an active account with the USGA and track an official handicap index. So great resources for you. You can get more in depth with the USGA app. For me, I just put my scores in there and then I go more in depth with my stats on 18 Birdies. But it's a great way to see where you need to improve. So if you're not doing that already, it's an easy way to know where to focus, where to practice, and start bringing those scores down in 2025. So that's the goal. Thanks for listening to my rant. Not a rant, but me nerding out over my golf stats. So appreciate it. Let's have a good year.